Okay, so once we've defined the public or the private section of our class, then we can begin declaring public methods and defining the public interface. In the next lecture, I'll kind of give you an algorithm for how to go about doing this for simple classes. So let's just start off with our time class again, and I'm going to define our time class as just having two integers, one for hours and one for minutes. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is declare a default constructor. And the default constructor always is the same name as the class, and it takes no arguments, and it has no return type. So this is the default constructor. Now when we get to implementation, we'll decide exactly what this does, but presumably we want this to set hours to 0 and minutes to 0. Although if we wanted to, as a default time, set something else, this would be the routine that would do that. And we can have multiple constructors. And so I'm going to declare an explicit constructor where someone could pass in new hours and new minutes. And this is what I call an explicit constructor. It's explicit because a programmer using your time class can explicitly set hours and minutes to whatever he or she wants. Now another thing I'm doing here is I am overloading. This is an overloaded method or overloaded constructors. And in object-oriented programming languages, especially in C++ and Java, you can create methods with exactly the same name, and they're differentiated by their parameter list. So you can see that this constructor, this method has no parameters. This constructor has 2 parameters. So you can have multiple methods with the same name, and we call this overloading. So now I want get methods, and I'm going to have a get method for hours and for minutes. Those are simply going to return these values that will let me, instead of dealing with an entire time object, I can get the hours or I can get the minutes. So it's going to have a return type that's the same as the private data member. So to declare that, I declare that I have a return type of int. I use the get prefix, and then I always use the name of the method, or I'm sorry, the name of the private data member as the method. And since these methods are going to simply return the value stored in the private data member, there are no parameters. So I'll have one of these for each of the private data members. Now I also want to be able to set these private data members after construction. So I can give them initial values here, but then after that, if I want to change them, I'm going to have to use the set methods. These typically are void return types. Again, I use the set prefix and then the name of the private data member, and then I have to pass in a new value. Naturally, the new value is going to be the same type as the private data member. And I have one of these for each of the private data members. Just like that. Now I'm going to need my various input and output methods. So I want to declare a print method. I want to declare an enter method. And then I'm also going to have methods for reading and writing time objects to and from disk. And I'm going to call those read. And I need to be able to pass in an input stream for reading, and then the same thing for write. And I'm going to pass in an output stream for writing. Just like that. And just for the sake of demonstration, let's say that I want to write a method that will add time, add two time objects. Now we're going to start with this, and we'll refine it as we go along. There are going to be a lot of things that this design is not going to let us do, and so it'll be an incremental improvement on this design. But this is a reasonable place to start.